Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session focuses on language desertion in Pakistan. Well, I hope and expect by the end of the session you would be able to understand the term language desertion, particularly in relation to the sociolinguistic scene of Pakistan. Well, at the outset of the session, I would like to define the term desertion. Language desertion or core desertion is a term that refers to the phenomenon of abandoning or of leaving the use of one language in favor of the other language, which may ultimately leads towards the death of the deserted language. So, the process of desertion imposes a threat of death to the language that is deserted. Sometimes due to the influence of a stronger language in a bi or multilingual context, a weak language is threatened to be deserted, which may lead towards its death. Sometimes the weak language, there is a shift from the weak language to the stronger language. So, if the process of shift continues for a long time, it may result in the desertion of the weaker language. When it comes to the instances of desertion or examples of desertion, I would say, is very much common. It is very much evident in the South Asian countries, the local vernaculars, the regional dialects, and for that matter, sometimes the national languages of the South Asian countries are facing the threat of shift and consequently sometimes desertion, sometimes leading towards, death of a particular language. What is the cause of desertion of a language? Well, various demographic, social, political factors play their role in, the desertion of a language. For example, the economic factors, the economic, prospects related to a language when they are very less. For example, when the area where it is spoken is, it is taken up by, in geographical sense, by some other people who speak some other language. The original, people who live there in that land and speak that particular language, that becomes a weak language in that situation, there are chances of its desertion. In the same way, there are some political factors that play a role sometimes, for certain purposes, ideological purposes, I would say, and for certain political purposes, governments make policies for shift from certain, local languages or from certain regional languages towards one national language, for instance, which results in a shift from these regional or local languages to the national language or to that one standard language that is supported by the policy of that state. The result is that this shift can lead towards a complete desertion, of that language. In the process of this, language desertion, whereas other factors, the local factors play a role, the role of globalization cannot be denied. Languages are in an unprecedented closer contact to each other. Nowhere in the history we find, back there, any example where languages would be so frequently in such a closer contact. The result of this contact is the emergence of processes of code switching, code mixing, of language hybridization, and of language desertion. And all these processes, they consequently have gathered speed as well. One more factor that contributes towards, this process of desertion of a language in a sociolinguistic context is the attitude of the speakers towards the mixed variety of a language. And, this determines how and, why they would desert a weak language. So, both linguistic as well as the social factors combined together, they play a role in this regard. When it comes to the Pakistani scene, when we look at that, there is in the Pakistani context, there is a certain hierarchy of languages in terms of being English being the strongest, and Urdu, to be the next on the ladder of, power and positioning, and the local and the vernacular and the regional languages, they follow. And, the educational, political, and administrative, uses of and the usage of these languages, and the choices that are made in the sociolinguistic context, they play a role in why, a particular community or in a particular region, people would desert any of the local languages. In order to get a better position in this hierarchy, people try to, this is a constant race, to try to extend, the range of, the total functions of a language. And in fact, how it is determined that a language is strong or a language is weak is through the number of functions that a language performs. The bigger is the range of the number of functions that a language can perform, the stronger it may be determined as, and the stronger it is, the lesser are the, possibilities or threats of its desertion. So when we look at Pakistani context, in the tussle between English and Urdu, Urdu is giving way to English. And, in the modern urbanized youth, we see a trend of shift towards English, which may end up with the desertion of Urdu language. Whereas, another very interesting example is of Punjabi language. A major shift in Punjabi language is already being marked, that is taking place in the region of Punjab. And, especially in the urbanized areas of Punjab, the parents do not want their children to speak Punjabi as their mother tongue. This shift from Punjabi to, to Urdu as a mother tongue is a major indicator that there is a threat of complete desertion of Punjabi language in the Pakistani sociolinguistic context.